State Golf Podcast. I'm Sean Melia, and today's topic is, if you could give a professional golfer a mulligan, which golfer would you give a mulligan to? Great topic. Had a lot of fun putting this list together. I have 5 of my own. Put out a request on Instagram for some thoughts and got a slew of other answers. So I'm going to go through some honorable mentions, some ones that people brought up that I thought were worth talking about, and then I'll get into my 5. Before we jump into the topic, just a few quick plugs. First off, if you just want everything that I do in one place at the end of the week, you can go to baystategolf.beehive, that's BEEHIIV.com, and subscribe to my newsletter. It is just a place where I package everything. I write a little essay about something that's on my mind from the week in golf. Could be professional, could be amateur, could be my own personal golf experience, whatever. In this case, I was going to do my 5 mulligans. I got such a great response from people that I decided I'm going to do a little bit of digging and make this a podcast. So that's one place you can find me, and you will kind of get delivered everything every Friday morning, including links to podcasts, links to YouTube videos, any Instagram stuff I've done. It is all there. And I also include some of my favorites from the week, favorite food I had, cooked or ordered, or where we might have gone out for dinner, anything I've listened to, podcasts, music, and books I've read, articles I'm reading, whatever. So I kind of compile a list of favorites as well. So it's a nice place to get everything. If you want to find me on Instagram, it is Baystate Golf, Baystate_golf on Instagram. And I am still posting stuff, even though we have some pretty tough weather coming up. Did not get to play when the weather was nice last weekend, unfortunately. So just kind of going back through the archive of photos, and I've been working on my favorite 100 holes and slowly just dripping them out on Instagram with some videos, some reels, some with explainers of the hole, and some just kind of quick pictures and stuff. So you can find me on Instagram, my newsletter. And then if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, please subscribe, follow, whatever the lingo is on your podcatcher. And finally, I'm also posting all these on YouTube, just trying to get my YouTube stuff up for what it's worth. So these podcasts are all up there. I have a few videos up there that I've put up over time. A little video about Cape Ann, a little bit video about the double dip when I play George Wright in Franklin Park every year with some friends. And so you can go and check those out too. That would be great if you subscribe to that channel. Just really slowly trying to build that out. It's tough, but I think it's worthwhile, and I appreciate anyone's support. And as I get out on golf courses, there will be certainly some more videos of golf and golf courses that I'm playing over the course of the spring and summer, which in some cases feels very close as the sun sets a little later, and also feels very far away as the temperature doesn't really seem like it wants to get above 40 degrees for the next week or so. So with all of that, thanks for your support, and let's get to professional mulligans and who I would give them to. Before I get to my 5 mulligans, I got so many great responses on Instagram that I had to share some of them. I got sidetracked. I was watching YouTube clips of finishing rounds, some really good stuff, finding some quotes, just trying to get some context for some of these. Some of them were very recent, and I could kind of remember stuff off the top of my head, but we're going back in time a little bit as well. First one on this list, no particular order. None of these are in any order at all. But just in my list, Mito Pereira at Southern Hills comes up kind of as a certainly an honorable mention. His tee shot on 18, the words used to describe it were that it looked like he was hit by a bolt of lightning on the downswing. Just totally flinched, really tough to watch. The ball hops into the creek that kind of meanders across the right side and then across the 18th hole at Southern Hills, and he has to take a drop, chops it up by the green, ends up making a double bogey, missing the playoff with Justin Thomas and Will Zalatoris by a shot. Mito Pereira kind of First onto the scene this week at Southern Hills, he was leading for a good chunk of the weekend. It always looked like he was barely holding on, hit a lot of clutch putts, made a lot of good pars, and just really ran out of steam and hit one really bad shot. You'd have to wonder what he would do if he just had that driver back in his hand with a one-shot lead. So that is the first mulligan that someone wanted to give out. The second one actually could go to two players within the span of 2 or 3 minutes, probably the closest mulligan options you could think of. Stuart Sink and Retief Goosen came to the 18th hole in the 2001 U.S. Open at, again, Southern Hills, a scene of some drama. And Goosen was leading by a shot. And Sink figured he would need his par to at least put some pressure on Goosen, who was very close in, looked like he was going to tidy up, and just basically kind of marked it for the sake of not finishing and winning the tournament before Sink finished. So he had very, very short distance, maybe 18 inches, 2 feet, pretty straightforward for a guy who's, played well enough to lead the U.S. Open all the way down to the 72nd hole. Sink misses his par putt, and in the blink of an eye, he kind of just doesn't really take his time, figuring the tournament is over, and misses the bogey putt, makes a double bogey, and Goosen ends up missing his putt moments later, and falling back into a playoff with Mark Brooks. Mark Brooks was already in the clubhouse. He was done. 18-hole playoff on Monday between Goosen and Brooks. Sink misses out because he just wiped at that short putt. Now, who's to say that if Sink makes his putt just mentally, Goosen sees a putt go in, maybe he makes his. But kind of a crazy, crazy moment there as far as two professional golfers missing two really short putts. It's pretty wild. Joe Daly. This is one I think I had heard of. Not a major. This is maybe one of the only ones that's not a major on here. Joe Daly was playing in the 6-round PGA Tour qualifying. So someone sent this to me, and I looked it up, and it came up in Bleacher Report has a 10 most humiliating missed putts in golf history. And Joe Daly in 2000 is playing Q School. He comes up with, I don't even know where he was on the golf course. He misses a 2-foot putt. However, this 2-foot putt was not really his fault for missing. If you remember Gordon Sargent in the U.S. Open at LACC last year, on his final hole on Sunday, he hit his last putt of the day, a little short one. It almost hit the plastic part of the cup and bounced straight back out. And that's exactly what happened to Daly. He went on to miss earning his tour card by that putt. So just a kind of a long tail impact. Joe Daly never really managed to do anything, missed his tour card because of this ball hitting the back of the cup and bouncing out. This has happened to me. Happened to me in a match in high school, which actually cost us the league. So kind of a wild way to miss getting your PGA Tour card. Joe Daly in 2000 hitting the back of the cup. A mulligan that isn't even a golf shot on the golf course. Roberto DiVincenzo. This was almost in my 5. Roberto DiVincenzo won 229 times worldwide. He was an Argentinian, played in the 60s. And in 1968, he won the Masters. However, his partner wrote down that he had made a 4 instead of a 3 on the 17th hole, the 71st hole of the tournament, which in essence gave him the win. And DiVincenzo did not check the scorecard when he was done, obviously swimming in the fact that he had just won the Masters. And it turns out when you sign an incorrect scorecard, but your score is higher, you are not penalized. You just get that score. So he goes from making a 3 on the 17th to making a 4. It pushes him into a playoff with Bob Golby. Golby goes on to beat DiVincenzo in an 18-hole playoff the very next day. Also crazy that they had an 18-hole playoff in the Masters. What a boon that would be these days if you got an extra day of Augusta National on TV. And famously, DiVincenzo at the end of the round, when he's kind of lamenting the mistake, he famously said, "What a stupid I am." Never won a major, a phenomenal golfer, pretty heartbreaking. So I would give him a mulligan. Just look over your scores. Unbelievable. Let's go to Winged Foot. 2006. We've got two guys on here. And maybe this is a good time to stop, because I think a lot of people had one of these moments and one of these players on their list. It was kind of it's on my mind too. This is one. Phil Mickelson in 2006 on 18, hitting a wipey fade into or near a trash barrel, and then making a mess of the hole. And then, he loses the US Open, the one tournament he needs for a career Grand Slam. So I think this is a good place to kind of go and give you my criteria for my 5, because this one is one that I think kind of falls into place here as far as when I left off for a couple of reasons, or one specific reason. But some things I took into consideration when I was making my list was, first off, the butterfly effect. Is there something larger that could have happened if the player received that mulligan? Did they stop a player from doing something? Did their career or did a career of someone else kind of take off because of this mistake? Is there some sort of butterfly effect that maybe could have happened if this player had earned this mulligan? Could it add to the history of the game? So in Phil Mickelson's case at Winged Foot, if he goes on to win a US Open, he is suddenly a career Grand Slam holder that he would kind of secure later on when he wins an Open championship over Henrik Stenson. Or, sorry, not over Henrik Stenson. But he goes on to win an Open championship. So he would have a career Grand Slam. I think the world is a better place with Phil Mickelson not having a career Grand Slam. And this is where it goes to just my last little point here is this something I would actually want the person to have? Would I want this golfer to have a mulligan on this shot? Or in Phil Mickelson's case, you could give him 2 mulligans. So you have 2 opportunities, because the second shot he hit from the rough on Winged Foot on the 18th hole was also a disaster. And he goes on to lose, and Ogilvy wins. I just don't want to give Mickelson a mulligan. That's just kind of a personal thing. I don't really like him. If I've got 5 to give out, he is not getting one from me. So that's kind of those are my 3. The butterfly effect. What's the bigger impact? Could it add to the history of the game in general? And then, frankly, is this a person that I would want to give a mulligan to? And Phil Mickelson is not one of those people. But a lot of people named him as someone they would like to. It's an honorable mention for sure. Mickelson, after that round, said, "The biggest reason why this is so disappointing is that this is a tournament that I dreamt of winning as a kid. I spent hours practicing, countless hours practicing, dreaming of winning this tournament. I came out here months in advance to get ready and had it right there in my hand, man. It was right there, and I let it go." Man, I wonder if he said anything about any live events like that. But so that's one. Certainly, if you want to give it to him, you could. It might change a lot of trajectories of a lot of people in that case, especially Ogilvy. And Ogilvy's a guy I like as well, so I like that he has a U.S. Open. Colin Montgomery was another person who was very involved in this tournament. He was sitting in the middle of the fairway and ends up making a double bogey. And he said, quote, "I switched from a 6 to a 7. I thought adrenaline would kick in. I usually hit the ball 10 yards further in that circumstance. I caught it slightly heavy and it went slightly right. It was a poor shot. No question about that. I put myself into poor position." So those two guys kind of threw up all over themselves. Ogilvy makes an incredible par from kind of down short right of the green and ends up winning that U.S. Open. DJ misses his putts on 18 at Chambers Bay in 2015. The first one would have won the U.S. Open. The second one would have forced a playoff with Jordan Spieth the next day. He missed both of them. And the first one was not like a short or not a long putt. It was a makeable, and I think he thought he could make it. Obviously, that week at Chambers Bay, a lot of people had problems with the greens. They were bumpy. It did not look great on TV. I personally loved it, and I'd love them to go back and play Chambers Bay for some sort of major. So DJ's missed putt, you could give him one or the other. You could give him the short one that was just for birdie on the par 5, or you could give him the eagle putt, makes that eagle putt, and he wins outright. Amazing to have a 12 to 15 putt to win a tournament outright and end up losing it. A little bit like Danny Willett at the Fortinet a couple years ago when Homa chipped in and ended up winning. Another one that I had known about, I'd heard about, but forgot about. It's from a long time ago. Bob Sanders at St. Andrews missed they said it might be what I read, a 24 to 30 inch length putt. Peter Kaufman had a great little story about this from Sports Illustrated in 2022, looking back on the 1970 British Open. And here is what he had to say about this very short putt that Bob Sanders had to win the Open Championship and beat Jack Nicklaus down the stretch. Peter Kaufman wrote, quote, "The moment remains one of the most shocking, painful, and poignant in major championship history. Doug Sanders, resplendent in his purple sweater, stalked around the green, examining his putt that ranged all of 24 to 30 inches in length. It was all that stood between him and winning the 1970 British Open at St. Andrews. And when he finally settled in and then failed to step out to gather himself after swatting a fly away from his ball, he struck a glancing blow that failed to deliver the ball anywhere close to the hole. He knew it too, reflexively reaching for the ball as soon as he hit it, as if to rake it back like he was a 30 handicapper, but stopping himself from doing so at the last possible moment." So that was Doug Sanders. I believe it sounds like, I think I read that he took 4 shots from 75 yards on 18 at St. Andrews. And then the next day, Jack Nicklaus beats him in an 18-hole playoff by 1 single shot to win a major at St. Andrews. Kind of an interesting piece of this is Nicklaus says, I think Nicklaus said, your career isn't complete until you've won at St. Andrews. And it's kind of wild that Nicklaus wins at St. Andrews in 1970 because someone missed such a short putt. And he has kind of put this generational historical pressure with this kind of maybe off the cuff comment, but maybe a little bit personal too, just picking out some different players who have never won at St. Andrews. I know Rory maybe felt a little bit of that pressure in 2022, but just kind of amazing to think that that's how Jack got his moment. So those are some of the honorable mentions that came through. Let's get to my 5 again in no particular order. Did some research, and we're gonna go through these 5, chat about them a little bit, and please let me know if you've got any of your own that you didn't get to share. Please send them along. First one, a lot of people gave me this one too, and it's a no-brainer in my mind. Tom Watson at the Open in 2009 at Turnberry. 59 years old, standing in the middle of the fairway on the 18th with a 1-shot lead. He striped his fairway wood down the middle. Kind of an interesting scene. I went back and watched just the last 20 minutes of this tournament after looking at Wikipedia and realizing that Lee Westwood was in the hunt, and Lee Westwood was in the group ahead of Watson. And Westwood hit an incredible shot from a fairway bunker on 18 to just get the ball on the green. He had a pretty long putt for birdie, and just Watson actually waited before Watson hit his tee shot. He was waiting around. I don't know if he didn't want to be bothered in case Westwood made his putt, and there was a roar from the crowd not that far away. And He waited and waited, striped it down the middle. Kind of one of those things you think, oh, if he's even watching in hindsight, thinking even Peter Alice was talking about, just he was waiting a little bit longer than they even felt comfortable with, but stripes it down the middle, gets to his ball. He was playing with Matthew Goggin, that final round, and there was something interesting said as Goggin was over his ball. The wind was blowing and gusting. You could see their pants kind of rippling in the wind. And Goggin went first. And I don't know who the announcer was, but the announcer said something along the lines of, this shot will give Watson a good barometer or measuring stick of maybe what he needs to do to get the ball onto the green and what club to hit. Goggin hits this kind of wipey fade that ends up right of the green. And watching it in retrospect, just maybe Watson took too much club. He pured his iron shot. It was right at the flag, takes a big hop and then a second big hop and just trundles over the back of the green. And it's all kind of shaved down there. And then it just turns into this kind of like fluffy rough, and the ball just climbed on top of it, and Watson couldn't get up and down. He missed a par putt that was maybe like 8 feet. Totally heartbreaking. I would give him the iron shot back because Watson is 59 years old, and I don't think giving him the putt or the chip back are sure things. But I think the way he was hitting his irons that week, the way he hit that specific iron, if you could go back and just take a club less, it's probably hitting on the front of the green and rolling up. He just hit it a little bit too far, almost the opposite of what happened to Monty at Winged Foot. Just heartbreaking. Westwood ended up 3-putting. He rammed his first putt by, had maybe 8 or 9 feet coming back and missed that. Ends up missing the playoff that Watson and Sink play in. Maybe one of the worst, saddest playoffs. Just Watson was gassed. Ends up shooting 4 over on the 4 holes, and Sink shoots 2 under, wins by 6 shots in the playoff, in a 4-hole playoff. Just wild stuff. But just thinking about the butterfly effect of that, 59-year-old wins a major. This was how many years? 12 years before Mickelson wins at age 50. Just it would have been an incredible feat, knowing how much Watson has already loved in Scotland. He's won 5 Open Championships. This would have been his 6th Open Championship, which is incredible. He won one 32 years earlier. It would have been an unbreakable record. I think someone can break Phil's record. I think someone who gets to over 50 in the next decade could possibly win. Maybe it's Tiger. Maybe it's someone else. Maybe the rollback has an impact on that too, in a positive way. I don't think it's a mistake that Watson in 2009 was competing and possibly winning. It feels like that was a little bit of a window when speed and length and all that stuff wasn't quite there. Club heads were still pretty small. So just an incredible butterfly effect, an incredible effect on history. Then you think about Stuart Sink is his only major win, so you feel bad maybe giving Watson another one when Sink has never won a single major. But I just can't think of a better player to have some of those records than Watson, and it felt like the right place for him to do it, and gives everybody hope for Tiger for the next decade, if that's what you want to do, or even Phil for the next 7-8 years, who could catch lightning in a bottle. And even a guy like Stuart Sink could win. That guy's been competing and been really good. So Tom Watson at the 2009 Open Championship at Turnberry, I am giving him his iron shot back. Drop the ball, try another one. I don't think the chip and the putt are going to be as successful, and he's not going to make par if he's from the back of the green all that often, just with the nerves and his age. Number 2, speaking of nerves and hitting little short putts, Scott Hoch, 1989 Masters, on the 11th hole, on the 10th hole in a playoff with Nick Faldo. Scott Hoch never won a major. He won 11 times on the PGA Tour. He had 15 top 10 finishes in majors. He played his best golf kind of in this window of the late 80s, early 90s. This Masters was 1000% his closest call in the majors. And the way it went down was first playoff hole, which is they play the 10th at Augusta as the first playoff hole. Scott Hoch missed a 2-foot par putt, didn't even touch the hole. He actually had a longer putt coming back as he was putting from above the cup. It was just one of those super nervy little putts that no one wants to hit. No one wants to hit to win a major, and Hoch missed it, and makes his 3.5 footer coming back up the hill. Which, man, I don't know if I'd make that one. That just hitting that putt was impressive enough. They go to the 11th hole. Faldo has bogeyed this hole all 4 times. 11 is a really tough hole, and of course, Faldo knocks it on the green to 25 feet and just jars the birdie putt, wins the Masters. It is his second major, as he won the 1987 Open Championship. He would go on to win 4 more majors. He'd win 2 more green jackets, including winning the next year in 1990. So he wins back-to-back. Him and Tiger are the only 2 people to do it in the last 40 years, which is pretty amazing. Faldo wins three Masters. He wins 3 Opens. He wins 6 majors, and just kind of set him off on a rocket ship, and leaves Hoch wondering what could have been winning that major. Another butterfly effect for Faldo for sure, and maybe one for Hoch. Maybe he's just a 1 major winner. That somewhat feels like his speed, but it also feels like he should have been someone who won a major. He was just a really solid player in that little odd window of time between Jack and Tiger, and just could never, ever get it done. Also, Faldo won 6 majors. It is incredible that if you look, he won. Hoch handed him this one 100%. And then you look at what Norman did in 96 when he choked like a dog down the stretch, as he tends to do. You could make an argument that Faldo should have 4 majors and 1 green jacket, and instead he has 6. He is in this completely different stratosphere of golfers with 6 majors, because that number is, I'd say that number is the number that delineates legendary status from great golfer. Rory's trying to get there. Brooks is trying to get there. Seve had 5, I believe. He just you could make an argument maybe 6 just gets him into that next level. So just an amazing butterfly effect. Maybe Faldo isn't on TV if he doesn't get his 6 majors. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. So just an interesting way to think about Faldo's career, basically being handed 2 green jackets. The next one up for me is Jordan Spieth. A lot of people, this is another one I actually truthfully forgot to put in the honorable mention because it's not one I'm giving him. A lot of people like to give Jordan Spieth the tee shot on 12 at Augusta. He makes the turn leading by 5 in 2016. He would have the opportunity he's trying to defend his green jacket. He won in 2015. And he's on this incredible run. And looking back on it now, it's even more incredible considering he just can't win golf tournaments anymore at the clip he was winning them. I mean, this was staggering stuff. The 12th hole, he rinses his tee shot. He had a 5-shot lead making the turn. He birdied 6, 7, 8, 9 to get a 5-shot lead. Then he went bogey, quadruple bogey, makes a 7 on 12, and just kind of slips out of contention. And, one of those ones that I think a lot of people would like to give him back, because who knows what could have happened if he wins a second green jacket. It would have been his, 3rd major in the last 5 tries, because he won the Masters in 15. He won the U.S. Open in 15. We talked about DJ already at Chambers Bay. And then another win at the Masters. That would have been some calendar year for Spieth. So that's another one that people did mention in the honorable mention. I just forgot to list it on here, so my apologies. But Spieth also had another one that I'm going to give him because I'm more intrigued by this as far as butterfly moments, history, what it would have done for the 2015 PGA Championship. Jordan Spieth hit a horrendous tee shot on 18 at St. Andrews in the 2015 Open Championship. This is a tournament that Zach Johnson ends up winning in a playoff with Louis Oosthuizen and Mark Leishman. Spieth birdie 17. He's like 18 is 18 at St. Andrews. It is a hole you can make birdie on. It's a hole that even at 15 you could get up close and have a little pitch shot. Spieth is a phenomenal wedge player, a phenomenal putter, especially at this time. The cup is the size of a I don't even know, the ocean. And he hits this hook that ends up he's got to take a drop, or he's got a fence in his backswing and he just can't make birdie. He ends up making par, misses the playoff by 1. And just thinking about if he gets into that playoff and if he ends up winning it, these are not guarantees. We're talking magical land anyways with all of this stuff. He would have had the first 3 majors won of 2015. He would have gone to Whistling Straits looking for the year Grand Slam. 2015, he could have won the Grand Slam. This was a Monday finish. It was a wacky event. Also, another butterfly effect, Zach Johnson winning at Augusta and St. Andrews. Not a lot of guys have done that. So the fact that Zach Johnson is on that list, this might be, I think Spieth is a better person personally to have on that list than Zach Johnson, and Spieth would have been on that list, and he would have got on that list in the span of 4 months, winning the Masters in 15 and then just turning right around. It would have been incredible. And looking at what Spieth did at Whistling Straits, the guy finished in second behind Jason Day at Whistling Straits. So I am giving Spieth a mulligan, but it's not at Augusta. It's at St. Andrews. It's on the 18th hole. Just hit your ball in play and wedge on and make a birdie and go beat those 3 guys in a playoff. Would have been a great playoff too, just thinking about those 4 guys battling. Oosthuizen, who had already won at St. Andrews, going for another one. So I'm giving Spieth one back, but it's not the one everyone would like to. Fourth one. We're going to go again. We're going to stay in the Open. Feels like the Open is the one that has the funkiest stuff going on, which is partly why I love it. We're going to go to 2003, St. George's, Thomas Bjorn. This might be one that's off people's radar. Thomas Bjorn, had a pretty great professional career. Ryder Cup captain, won a bunch, kind of a European Tour stalwart, and he had a chance to win an Open Championship. And he is another one who feels like he should have a major in his pocket. He was leading at St. George's. He got to the 16th hole. He's playing with Davis Love III. Ben Curtis is a few groups ahead. Ben Curtis has never played in a major championship as a professional golfer. It is his first. He is like Francis Ouimet of, 90 years later. And he ends up hitting his tee shot on this par 3 into a greenside bunker. He takes 3 shots to get out of this bunker. The way the bunker was kind of sloped and positioned, if you didn't hit it hard enough up onto the green, the slope kind of carried the ball back into the bunker. Bjorn had a lot of shots from bunkers and had a bunch of penalty strokes that he gathered over the course of the week. On Thursday, he got a 2-stroke penalty because he hit a bunker shot, and it wasn't a very good bunker shot. He was not pleased with himself, and he hit at the sand with his club, and the ball rolled back into the sand, which is a 2-stroke penalty because technically then you are testing the sand with your club before hitting another bunker shot. If the ball had stayed out of the sand, he would not have incurred that penalty. He made an 8 on that hole. Amazing that he still had a lead after making an 8. I think that would have maybe put him in some rarefied air as far as players to win majors after making quadruple bogeys. So he makes a double bogey on 16 after making a bogey on 15. So he's kind of leaking oil here, and he's got 2 holes left. Curtis is in the house, and he's tied with Curtis 17 and 18 at St. George's are no sure thing, and they were not for Bjorn. He makes bogey on 17. He cannot make birdie on 18 and ends up losing. Ben Curtis wins that major championship. And at the end of it, Bjorn said, quote, "It was an expensive mistake, but that's the way open golf is. I had my good breaks this week, but I had a bad one there. You live with it and you move on. I know now that I'm on my way back to the game, and I know I can play. I know I have majors in me." Unfortunately, he wasn't right. He did not have majors in me or in him, and he never really was super close again. So it would have been a really I think he deserved one. Looking at the butterfly effect, it is a pretty limp one. Ben Curtis, who had a couple wins on the PGA Tour, had an okay career, is now coaching high school golf, I believe. So it feels like Bjorn, who knows, maybe that boosts him and he goes and wins a little bit more. But I'd love to see him get up and down from that bunker or just make a 4. And maybe he ends up in a playoff because he bogeyed 17. But that's another one I'd love to give Thomas Bjorn one. It's a little bit different, which I wanted to find some that maybe weren't the choral answers that people had, and Thomas Bjorn is certainly one. So give him the ball back. Maybe it's a tee shot. I don't even know. I think I want him hitting that bunker shot again, because that tee shot was no short thing either, with the way the wind was blowing and how small that green is. So put a ball down in that bunker. Thomas, go make a par, go make a bogey, but god damn, don't make a double. Last one. The maybe most famous, the only one that has kind of become a verb. And I didn't have him on here at first. And then that kind of made me realize he should be on here. And that is Jean Van de Velde. The 1999 Open Championship at Carnoustie. An incredible 18th hole, 72nd hole, where we've got Van de Velde down in the water, trying to hit his ball out of the water, just scraping it around. And like the day in general was crazy. I was just looking back at the scores and just kind of trying to reacquaint myself with that event. I do not remember watching this. I was at that time, I remember being I think I was in Ireland, kind of on summer vacation, and was out doing something and didn't really get to watch a lot of it. But I remember coming home and seeing the playoff and being shocked that there was a playoff. Van de Velde led Paul Lowry, who ended up winning, by 10 shots to start the day. Justin Leonard, who was also in the playoff with Van de Velde and Lowry, we forget that he makes a triple bogey on 18, and it forces a playoff. Justin Leonard was 5 shots behind Van de Velde to start the day. And they both, Lowry shot 67, which is insane. There were 2 67s out there. I think Duval shot 69. Craig Perry was the other one who shot 67, and he missed the playoff by a shot. He was 11 over to start the day. 7 over, I believe, and misses by a shot. I don't even know where to start with this, because the whole hole was a complete train wreck. And Van de Velde, I think we just have to draw the line all the way back, in my mind, to the tee shot, because the tee shot was initially the problem. He blows it way right. The 18th hole at Carnoustie is there's a triple bogey waiting to happen. It's not an easy hole that Van de Velde made hard. It's a hard hole that Van de Velde found a way to make harder. Blows his shot right, just kind of scrapes it around, ends up landing in the burn that's crossing the water. He tries to figure out if he should try to hit it out, if he should take a drop. But if he takes a drop, he's dropping in some horrible, horrible grass. There's just no escape where he is. He's just stuck. The amazing part is he makes a pretty good putt for a triple bogey 7 to force to get into the playoff, because at that point a playoff was guaranteed, because if he missed and made an 8, Leonard and Lowry are going to the playoff without him. In the end, he ends up making a 7. He ends up losing the playoff. Paul Lowry wins. No like super butterfly effect here. Justin Leonard in 99 had his major already. and Lowry had never won one, never wins one again. Van de Velde, plays in the Ryder Cup. Lowry had a pretty good, just solid career after this, but this was definitely his highest point. Van de Velde plays in the 99 Ryder Cup, just kind of disappears. And so no real butterfly effect. It's just the fact that historically we've got to, people say I pulled a Van de Velde. If you make a triple bogey or you blow a big lead, it doesn't really matter. Even the context of it, it's just become a statement that everyone understands who's played golf. If you pull a Van de Velde, you threw up all over yourself and lost a match you should have won or blew a big lead. So, I mean, it's hard to leave him off. It's hard to not give him a mulligan. There is an outstanding, I've talked about this on the podcast with Burke before when we do our major previews. There's an outstanding infomercial by Never Compromise, who is a putter brand that Van de Velde was using at the time, and it was kind of a popular brand in the late 90s, early 2000s. And their putters had this kind of like black and gray color design. I think if I remember correctly, like the gray part was really where the sweet spot was. So it was, I think maybe it was meant to kind of train your eye on where you want to hit the ball. And Van de Velde went back to the 18th at Carnoustie, and Never Compromise filmed him playing the hole with just his putter to see if he could get better than a 7 on the hole. They gave him 3 tries. The first try he made an 8. He's hitting this putter like 220 yards. I mean, it's amazing. He makes an 8 the first time. He makes a 7 the second time. And then the third try, he makes a 6 with just his putter at Carnoustie's 18th hole. So Van de Velde, to his credit, was like super understanding and cool with doing this, and kind of understood the way it all went down, and never really kind of pouted or blamed anybody. He's got the iconic picture of him with his pants rolled up, hands on his hips, trying to figure out what to do in a bird, as thousands of people are watching and millions of people are watching on TV as he just crumbles under the pressure of having a lead at the Open for so long. I mean, he was excellent all week, just crazy. Also, can we talk about the score being 6 over par? Just better times, maybe. I think I'd love to see some major in that over par window again. Just give me a couple every decade. I don't need it every year. I don't need it every major, but it'd be great if every decade we can kind of look back and point to one. I think Marion was pretty close when Justin Rose won, as I think about it, but we've gone away from that real tough events. The last one, as I was talking about Spieth hole at 12, is kind of a funny one that my buddy Matt sent me. I think we had texted about this before as well. I'm making Y.E. Yang hit his shot into 18 again. I think it was the 2008 PGA with Tiger, and Y.E. Yang beats Tiger down the stretch. Kind of the opposite of everything I believe in these mulligans, but a big butterfly effect possibly. Y.E. Yang, you got to hit that again. That was ridiculous, and it ended up winning him the tournament. I'm not sure if it was the 17th or the 18th, but I think it was the 18th hole. Runs the putt in and just kind of beats Tiger Woods, which was crazy. And then I think the rest of the world met Tiger as a different person after that. That might have been the last major he played. I didn't look this up, but I think that was the last major he played before the stuff with his personal life came out. So, but maybe it wasn't. I have no idea. I'm just talking off the cuff here at the end of the podcast. But that would be a funny one, just to roll the ball back to YE and say, hey, man, really good shot, but you're going to have to do that again. Sorry. And yeah, so that does it. If you have any of your own, shoot them to me on Instagram, baystate_golf. You can email me, Sean at baystategolf.com. Always loving to do. I did a Q&A last week. We'll certainly do a couple of those over the course of the spring as golf gets going. And I'm just looking for stuff to do and talk about. So love questions people send me about golf in Massachusetts, golf in New England, whatever you want to ask me about. So thanks again for listening. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for reading my stuff. Thanks for reading the newsletter. And we will see you next week.